Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us live from the market site in Times Square, New York City, we have Arnzen. She's a chief people officer at Micron, a Nasdaq 100 company. And we're here to discuss the company's strategy as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. April, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Market Site.
Thank you, Jill.
And DEI is an important pillar of Micron's strategy. In 2020, the company outlined 6 ambitious commitments to address DEI efforts. Can you speak to the progress that Micron has made?
Yeah, thank you, Jill, for having me. So we embed DEI in our business strategy. We know to make progress, you have to do that. So as you mentioned, in 2020, we outlined 6 commitments, DEI commitments. We set goals against those, and we measure progress and report out on that. And I'm pleased to report that this last year, we met or exceeded nearly every goal we set out. Some of the highlights from this last year, we increased female representation globally from 28.9% to 30.3%. Even more exciting, in India, Taiwan, and Malaysia, we actually now exceed industry benchmarks for female representation. Pay equity is really important to us, and we achieved comprehensive pay equity this year. And for a lot of companies, they just focus on gender, but Micron doesn't. We actually take it a step further, and we include other underrepresented categories as well, including people with disabilities, race and ethnicity, and in the US, veteran status. So those are big elements to our pay equity model. You know, for Micron, innovation is our lifeline. We absolutely have to innovate. And a couple of years ago, we recognized that the number of underrepresented participants in our invention programs, in our patent programs, it just wasn't sufficient. So we started a program called Women Innovator Program. And in 2018, we had 77 female inventors on original US patent applications. And this year we had 165 women on those original patent applications. So incredible progress in our inventions. We don't just focus on DEI inside of the company, we also have 3 of our commitments that are externally focused. Increasing our cash investments with diverse financial institutions has been an important pillar for us, and we exceeded that goal, as well as expanding our spend with diverse suppliers. We doubled the spend with diverse suppliers this last year. So incredible progress both inside the company and out.
That really is quite remarkable, the stats that you just shared. In what area of DEI do you think Micron is leading?
So I'll start with one that's near and dear to Nasdaq's heart, board diversity. Super important to us. And we reached gender parity in February of this year in advance of the Nasdaq board diversity rule. But of course, we don't just look at gender parity. If you take it a step further and add gender and race and ethnicity, we're actually over 60% diverse on our board. And even a step further from that, we have a US veteran on our board. So we have over 75% of our board is diverse, comes with diverse backgrounds. And so just the rich discussion in the boardroom, having all of those diverse perspectives and backgrounds is incredible. Pay equity, again, is another area where Micron is leading. We not only do we include all underrepresented categories in our pay equity model, we also include all elements of pay. So base pay, bonus, and stock awards are included. So that's why we really call it comprehensive pay equity. Inclusion is another area where we just continue to excel. As evidenced by our Engage survey, we actually jumped in our inclusion scores this last year by 7 percentage points, from 78% to 85%. And I attribute that to our employee resource groups. We actually had our membership double this last year in our employee resource groups, and they make such an impact. They delivered what we call an ally training this last year to 99.9% of our workforce. 99.9% of our workforce participated in this ally training delivered by our ERGs, which I believe really moved the needle. It really opened everyone's eyes on how they can become better allies to one another. So those are really, really important. But more than just what we're doing, I think how we're doing it can also be an area where we're certainly leading. And embedding DEI in our incentive goals, making sure the CEO down to the frontline employee is aligned to those DEI goals is very much a leading practice. And then the last thing I'll call out is transparency, and continuing to push the envelope and become more transparent with your data is incredibly important. And this year we released our EEO1 diversity and pay data, which is very uncommon for companies to do, but we did that. So we're one of the few companies to release that data.
So we know you're excelling in DEI, but what's the key driver? What's the success behind the initiatives there from the company level all the way out to the communities that you serve?
Yeah, you know, I think the key is making sure everyone is aligned and having your board be so involved, just like any company strategy. Having board oversight. In fact, our Governance and Sustainability Committee actually includes DEI in their committee charter now. They just did that this last year. Having your executives own the DEI commitments, having your employees participate and be aligned to those incentive goals, it makes the difference when you've got everyone aligned to a common vision and a common set of goals.
And to wrap up here, are there any lessons that you can take away from the success that you've seen with the DEI strategy you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. There's three lessons I'll call out. You know, early on, we thought we were going to make incredible progress really fast, but we learned that DEI is a marathon and not a sprint, and you have to celebrate your wins and recognize progress, but you can't be satisfied with that progress. You have to remain completely committed to continuing the progress. Number two, you have to get everyone involved, and everyone has some diverse perspective and diversity dimension to offer, whether it is seen or unseen. And so getting everyone to be part of that conversation and making sure that all voices are heard is incredibly important. And then the third thing I'll call out is really thinking about DEI globally, but acting locally. We know diversity is so different depending on the location, so having strategies tailored to those locations is critically important.
All right, April, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.